All right, we're back here on SportsLine. Big day. Dorial Green-Beckham traded to Philadelphia. Dennis Kelly, the backup offensive lineman, coming into Nashville to provide some valuable depth on this reworked offensive line that looked pretty darn good in preseason game number 1 on Saturday, but they need to get some depth there and build up that offensive line. 737-7767 is the number tonight. We want to get your take on this trade that sends DGB, the guy they drafted 40th overall last year, to the Eagles. Did you like it? Do you think it's a good move? Or do you hate it and think they gave up on DGB too soon? And also, I guess, the thought on John Robinson. He's the guy who ultimately made the move today. He's made a lot of moves since taking over as the general manager. At this point, does he just get your benefit of the doubt that if he thinks that it's the right move for this team, you're on board because of the other things he's done? Or are you still questioning some of these moves at this point? Love to get your take on that as well. 737-7767 is the number. Jay's been waiting for a while. Jay, we appreciate that. You are first up here tonight on SportsLine.
Good evening, Steve.
You bet.
Hey, I think that it was a great move, and I'm going to tell you why. This Robinson guy, he knows his stuff because he's learned from Belichick, and not only that, I watched him the other night. They showed him several times on television, and there's people around him talking and everything. He was focused. He was watching everything. He was watching the sidelines. He was like a hawk up there, sitting out in the press box. But I just think he's done a great job. He knows what he's doing because he's learned from Belichick. And, I just wondered, he's the type of guy probably like Belichick that, I'm sure the other players are realizing, we got to do better, than what we're doing, or we're going to get cut. But, and also, I'm a Cowboys fan. I just wondered, I'll be quick, I think Dak Prescott looked really good, and I'll hang up and listen. Thanks.
Yeah, I think he did. It'll be interesting to see what Dallas does with that quarterback position, because obviously Tony Romo, you hope he can be the guy for a few more years there in Dallas, but at some point you got to move on, and I don't know what their exit plan is for that. So maybe Dak Prescott's a guy that they can think about moving forward. As far as the Titans, this seemed kind of like a Bill Belichick-y trade, didn't it? The Patriots for so long have given up sort of on skill position players and guys who maybe have been productive or maybe have the chance to be productive in order to bolster interior parts of their team, in order to build the offensive and defensive lines and dominate in the trenches. And then they just figure they can plug in around that. You got the quarterback, you got the lines, you can do other things. This feels a little bit like that you value so much having the depth and the ability on the offensive line that you're willing to give up a guy who potentially could be a really good player in the NFL. Now, he potentially could be a big bust, too. I don't think we have enough information either way on DGB. But that, to me, is what this feels like, is they're looking at this team for right now. And for right now, they have no depth behind their two tackle positions and need a guy who can play swing. That's what Dennis Kelly does, and he was perhaps the best available guy for that out there in the NFL. And he didn't necessarily need Dorial Green-Beckham to be, at the moment, your 5th or 6th wide receiver. So he became expendable because of that, and some of the other guys that we talked about. And to go along with John Robinson and that point about him watching everything, there's no question about that. He is very involved. I'll tell you this, just an anecdote from today. I walk into Titans practice, and all of the players are over on, I guess, Field 3, as they call it out there at St. Thomas Sports Park. On Field 2, Kevin Dodd, who's still on the physically unable to perform list, second-round pick from this year, number 33 overall, he's getting worked out as they try to figure out if he's ready to come off that list and join the team back in practice. You know who the guy working him out was? It was John Robinson. The general manager of the team is out there with a football in his hand, running him through drills, trying to see if Dodd is ready to go. Watch that for a little while, go over, start watching the team, watch some of the team stuff. Then they split up, and they do 7-on-7 stuff on one end. They bring the two lines together, and they're going at each other, pass rush drills where the offensive line has to hold strong, one-on-one stuff. The guy running the drill was John Robinson. He had the whistle in his mouth. He was up there watching guys. He was starting and ending the drill. He was right in on the issue. And at one point, they had a little skirmish there. A couple guys got heated. Whole group came together. There was some shoving going on. The voice you heard was John Robinson getting right in the middle of the scrap, pulling guys apart and saying, knock it off. None of that here. Stop it. That was John Robinson. This is a guy who has established the tempo at St. Thomas Sports Park. He has set the tone for this team. Mike Mularkey is executing it with his coaching staff, but John Robinson has set the tone at St. Thomas Sports Park. And this trade again today, to me, is part of that. We want guys who are going to be coachable, who are going to work hard and be a part of what we're going to do. And you're going to give us consistent effort on the practice field and in games. That is what Dorial Green-Beckham fell short of doing so often in his short time in Tennessee. And that, to me, is why this move was made today. Is because other guys have filled that void and fit in better to what John Robinson wants to do. Back to the phones we go. Let's say hello to Bob. Bob, good evening.
Oh, good evening. Good poem. I was thinking the Titans are doing a lot better with the change in security as well. I don't think Metro takes to the threat or mischief as much as the regular service. And also could go over to the trade-off. You know, he might not have been able to take the heat. I mean, really, it's been hot this summer, and they're trading off like that. You know, health issues and stuff like that. So that's my only opinion on that. What do you say?
Okay, Bob, we appreciate the call, and certainly they're making a lot of changes over there. And I think if that last part had to do with the trade, you know, one of the parts that has troubled DGB during his career has been his fitness and how in shape he was. He wasn't last summer when he came, and that held him back initially and maybe put him behind the 8 ball and is part of the reason he's in the position that he's in today. Now, he did a much better job to come in shape this summer, but that didn't fix the things on the field. Look, there's no question. His size and skill set gives him the possibility to be a big-time receiving threat in the National Football League. But there's also no question that in order to do that, you have to run the right routes. You have to know where you are supposed to be and be there. And when the ball comes your way, you've got to be willing to fight for it and make a play. All of those things are question marks for DGB at this point of his career. And the Titans, frankly, can't have question marks. This is a team that's won 5 total games over the past 2 years. 5 total games. They don't have time for projects. They need guys that are going to help them contribute and help them win games and turn this around right now. I don't think Dorial Green-Beckham was going to help the Titans turn it around right now. They've found other guys that are more consistent and right now are more productive, and that is what they need. And today, after the injury to Josué Matias over the weekend and the injury to Byron Bell earlier this summer, for an offensive line that's being retooled and remade, they need depth. They needed to find a guy who could provide them depth on the offensive line, and Dennis Kelly gives them a guy who's played 30 games. He's started 15 in 4 seasons in the National Football League, and he's done it at 4 different positions up front. That's a pretty nice insurance policy. And you did it by trading a guy, forget the fact that he's a second-round pick from last year. You did it by trading a guy who's maybe your 6th best receiver on the roster today. This was about today. This is about where the Titans are right now, not necessarily about the future. And I think, but I'm curious about this, so call up if you disagree, 737-7767. But I think to some degree Titans fans should welcome that, because for too long, draft picks and choices around here have been a lot about potential, about what this guy can grow into, about what this quarterback might be able to become, about where we might be able to go from here. It's been a long time since the Titans were anywhere of significance 2008 was the last time this team was in the playoffs. That's 8 years. To get back there, you can't afford to have projects. You need guys that can just go out there and perform for you. And so for years now, it's been about potential or about what this guy can do. I think this move today is the first time in a long time that a move was made about today. Is Dennis Kelly going to change the face of the franchise? No. But what he does do is provide you a valuable backup at a very important position that has been a weakness for this team for 5 or 6 years now. And you have other guys at wide receiver who can make plays and frankly are making them at a clip today better than what DGB does. So for right now today, I think the Titans are a better team when Kelly hits the field tomorrow to bolster that offensive line than what they were last night when it was Green Beckham on the field, oftentimes not making plays or being in the right spot for the wide receivers. Obviously, time will tell how this trade plays out, but I think this was a signal that they're going for the now. And maybe that's a credit to what they've done this offseason, too. That they've gone from a team that has been tied for the worst record in the league the past couple of seasons to now all of a sudden saying, what do we need to do to compete today? What do we need to do to compete this season? And if we get this piece or if we get that piece, can we compete in this division? Can we make a run at the playoffs? I'm not sure if they're there quite yet for those two things, but it seems like they're a heck of a lot closer today than they were a year ago, or 2 years ago, or 4 years ago. So that, at least, is a step in the right direction. Let's go to Chris. Chris, good evening.
Hey, how you doing? I was calling. I totally disagree with this trade. I thought on the surface, unless it was something bigger than what it is, I actually think it was kind of a dumb trade.
Okay.
I mean, you could have waited for alignment if you wanted depth badly. The wide receiver core is average at best. You don't know what Andre Johnson's going to bring you. You definitely have some injury concerns with Kendall Wright. I mean, you don't know. And to get rid of a person, even though he might have been consistent, remember, he's just been there for a year and a game. And people drink this Kool-Aid of Robinson. I think he's good. But, I mean, the running game for a preseason game where everybody's vanilla, you don't know yet. You don't know what it's going to be like. So to give up on DGB after a year in a game, I think was highly. It's highly questionable at best. I don't understand it. I think they should give him at least one more year. If he was there for 2 years and then they did this, great, okay. But this is just a year from a guy who had been out. Who was out of the game, the college game for a year. And then on top of that, he was your leading wide receiver in terms of yards of last year. So, I mean, to me, that's just a head-scratcher, and I'll just hang up and listen.
Yeah. No, I think there's a lot of people who share that opinion, Chris. I think a big part of this is the guys who drafted DGB and thought that all that talent was there and that it could click for him aren't the guys running the franchise anymore. It's Robinson and Malarkey now. And Malarkey, remember, was a tight end coach last year, so he worked pretty close to that passing game before he then became the head coach. He challenged DGB after that. He actually got DGB more involved at the end of the season. I think what you get with Mike Malarkey is a guy who understands Dorial Green-Beckham about as well as anybody. And as he said it today, he said the inconsistencies, we talked about it. It just never clicked with him. And I don't know if that's an indictment long term. They both said, Robinson and Malarkey said, we wish him well in Philadelphia. We think he'll benefit from a fresh start up there. But I think what you saw is a guy who, he wasn't their guy. And he didn't fit into what they wanted to do. And while I agree with you, maybe the patience ran out and maybe it ran out too soon. Here's the thing, as I laid out with the depth chart. If he's your sixth receiver and he doesn't make the team and you cut him, you get nothing back. You get nothing back. So if you think there's a guy out there like a Kelly who you like, and Robinson raved about what he can do today in terms of a personnel fit, and Malarkey said he's a great fit for what they're trying to do here. If you think he's the guy, why not try to get some value out of a guy that you may be cutting 2 weeks from now if he's not going to make your team? So I think this is a lot about where DGB had fallen, how far he had fallen on this depth chart, that they were willing to make this trade right now. I think that's a big piece of it. And the other thing is, when you start talking about other offensive linemen, I mean, I think a reason you go for Kelly right now is if you wait again to the waiver wire, those are guys who are cut. Those are guys who aren't making a team. So is that where you want to put the eggs in the basket in terms of building that offensive line and backing things up? I don't know. And I think that's another reason why they made this big trade today. Back to the phones we go. 737-7767 is the number. Thank you, Courtney. We go to James. James, good evening.
Hey.
Go ahead, James.
I think we need the Titans of old, you know, the people we need, like Devon Curse. I'm on TV right now, but I think we need Titans of old, you know, like Devon Curse and the Titans of old, you know. But I think we got a good running game going now, you know. But if everybody stays healthy, you know, we'll see, you know. Preseason ain't nothing, but you know, we'll see in the first game of the season. You know, I think they ought to let the preseason games count as a full game. You know, but that's all I gotta say.
All right, thanks, James. Nobody's going to let the preseason games count because these are too valuable to figure out who's going to be on the roster and what team's going to be there, and you don't play your starters. If they counted, you'd have to play the starters the whole time. So that's not going to happen. Do they change it someday and maybe go to 2 and make the schedule 18 games longer? The NFLPA is certainly going to fight that, but maybe that's the adjustment you see at some point. The Titans are trying to be like the old Titans. That is a goal. They want to be smash mouth. The erotic smash mouth is the term that they have tossed around a lot during the course of this training camp. They're going to be multiple. They're going to put the ball in the hands of Marcus Mariota to make plays and points, but they want to control the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. And Saturday night, although it was a preseason game, that was a good step in that direction in terms of how Mike Malarkey wants this Titans football team to play. Let's go to Tony. Tony, good evening.
Hey, how you doing?
Doing well.
What I'm calling about is, I don't know why the Titans, I know they want Marcus Mariota to be healthy, but defense win games. They keep doing all this for offense, but they ain't doing nothing for defense. And furthermore, rookies are under high pressure to perform because of the new collective bargaining agreement right in the middle of election year. They passed this thing, and these rookies has not got a chance with these new contracts. They ain't making no money. They're getting hurt. They're getting beat up. And then they go out, they ain't got no money in their pockets. And the NFL and the broadcasters and nobody want to recognize this. But defense win games. And the Titans, they better tighten up on the defense because it looks like they're trying to cut all the guys they got on the team like Womack and everybody, because when you meet a J.J. Watt, you better have somebody to stop this man from coming to the line. And they don't have anybody on that side to stop somebody like that. And I just wish the Titans well, but I don't see them getting no better because they got a lot of confusion going on. They don't even know where they start and where they end.
All right, Tony, I appreciate the call. I think one thing to counter your point is I think this is the clearest the identity and the plan for the Titans has been since I've been here. To look at them going back to 2010, this is who they are. They're going to run the football. They are going to play behind this offensive line. They are going to be physical on both sides of the ball. That's what they want to do. That is what the identity is. We'll see if that offensive line can be as good as it looked the other night and can handle guys like J.J. Watt and all that. The defensive side of the ball, yeah, maybe some of the changes have been less highly publicized as what you've seen on the offense, but they've really built up depth up front. And in that linebacking core, they should have a bunch of guys who can make plays there. You saw it the other night. Justin Staples, Nate Palmer, David Bass. Those are guys who are not starters on this team who made plays, significant contributions. The secondary, Rashad Johnson, Denoris Searcy are new within the past 2 years. They're your starters at safety. Kevin Byard comes in, makes an interception. He's the heir apparent there. There's some depth back there. Damian Stafford had a really good game the other night, being a physical, run-stopping safety. And then you look at the cornerback position. Jason McCourty's back healthy. Parrish Cox missed the game the other night because of an injury, but he's a guy there that you feel good about. Bryce McCain has come in and impressed coaches. Antoine Blake played really well the other night, and you've got several guys behind it, Bleedy Ray Wilson, B.W. Wedd, Kobe Riggs, guys who've played for this team. They've created depth now for the Titans and this roster, and that's their goal. Are there a bunch of stars? No, they don't have a ton of star players right now, but the depth has created competition, and the hope is that that competition rises all ships. Rising tide rises all ships. That's what the Titans are hoping by making it, as again Robinson said, the most competitive 90-man roster. He hopes helps them field the most competitive 53-man roster as they head into the season, so they can turn things around from a team that won just 3 games last year and had the #1 overall pick in the NFL draft. Got to take a break. We are running behind, but we will get back to this conversation. Plus, hear from John Robinson about the trade coming up. This is SportsLine on News Channel 5+.